Okay, good afternoon and welcome to this meeting of the Cabinet Scrutiny Committee on the 28th of February 2022. Just to make you all aware, today's meeting will be recorded. Can I also welcome any members of the public and press to today's meeting? Can I kindly ask you to observe the meeting only and not speak or participate? Can I please remind you all to switch your phone to silent for the duration of the meeting. In addition, can I refer you to the protocols for remote meeting which have been previously circulated? Namely, your microphone should be switched to mute unless you are speaking. Should you wish to ask a question or make a comment, can you please indicate either by the chat function or by raising your electronic hand via Teams. I will assume that you have all read the paperwork before us today prior to the meeting. Please only use the chat function to indicate if you wish to speak as an alternative to the electronic hand function or to raise any technical issues. When asking a question, can you please indicate which page number you are referring to? The first item on the agenda is to do a roll call. I am Councillor Saifur Rahman, the chair, and I am present. I will now call on Charlotte, the Democratic Service Officer, to take the roll call. Charlotte, over to you, please.
Thanks, Chair. So I'll mark you as present. I've had apologies from the Vice Chair, Councillor Freegard, and I've also had apologies from Councillor Wyndham Griffiths. So if I move to Councillor Nigel Hunt, are you present?
Present, Charlotte. Thanks.
Councillor Steve Hunt?
I'm here, Charlotte.
Chris James?
Present, Charlotte.
Councillor Dennis Keogh?
Present, Charlotte.
Councillor Simon Niall?
I'm here, thanks, Charlotte.
Councillor Alan Llewellyn?
Present for Seminole, Charlotte, and I understand that Councillor Neath Purcell has given apologies as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Sandra Miller?
Present, Charlotte.
Also had apologies from Councillor Ridian Misen. Councillor Suzanne Pattison?
Present.
I've also had apologies from Councillor Lynette Purcell. Councillor Sonia Reynolds?
Present.
Rachel Taylor?
Present, Charlotte.
Councillor Arwyn Wilcock?
The Seminole, present.
And then if I move to Cabinet members, Councillor Edward Latham?
Yeah, present, Charlotte.
Councillor Leanne Jones?
Present, Charlotte.
Councillor Carol Clement Williams?
Present, Charlotte.
Councillor Mike Harvey?
Yeah, present, Charlotte.
Councillor Doreen Jones?
Present, Charlotte.
Alan Lockyer?
Present, Charlotte.
Councillor Peter Rees?
Present, Charlotte.
Councillor Peter Richards?
Present, Charlotte.
Annette Wingrave? No. And if I move to officers, Karen Jones?
Present.
Andrew Thomas?
Present, Charlotte.
Andrew Jarrett?
Yeah, present, Charlotte.
Nicola Pierce?
I'm present, Charlotte.
Jones?
Yeah, I'm present, Charlotte.
Ray Griffiths?
Present, Charlotte.
Just checking through 2 seconds. Jane Woodman Ralph?
Present, Charlotte.
Nicole Blackmore?
Present, Charlotte.
I think that's everyone. Have I missed anyone at all?
Me, Charlotte. Karen.
Oh, Karen, I do apologise.
Thank you.
Have I missed anyone else? No, then Chair, that's everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Chair's announcement. We have chosen to scrutinize item 6, item 7, item 8, item 9, and item 10. There is one urgent item, which is item 12 on the cabinet agenda. So we do have question on that item as well. So that will be also on our list to be scrutinized. Can member please indicate whether they have any declaration of interest in relation to the items that we have chosen to scrutinize today, please can you indicate? Mike Harvey, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. CCTV is mentioned under items 6, 7 and 9. Obviously declaring interest because the police there. And also police is mentioned under item 6, the revenue budget, and I declare an interest there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Anybody else wish to declare an interest? Okay, I don't see any. Councillor Harvey, can I ask you to? Yeah, thank you. Okay, the next item is to pre-decision scrutiny. We will now move on to the cabinet papers for our pre-decision scrutiny. And the first item we've chosen to scrutinize is item 6, which is the revenue budget for 2022 to 2023. This item is for decision. Can I ask Hugh, is there anything you wish to add before I take questions on this particular item?
Thank you very much, Chair. Just for members to be aware, these are obviously the final revenue budget proposals for next year following conclusion of the public consultation exercise. As I mentioned in the seminar last week, but for the benefit of members who perhaps weren't there, we had 485 responses, 90% supportive of the proposal to freeze council tax, and in terms of the other proposal to use £2.8 million to support one-off investments, only 7% of respondents disagreed. So therefore, my advice to the Cabinet today, Chair, is that there are no changes to the main items consulted on. So I'm proposing that Cabinet consider that council tax levels should be frozen at 2021-22 levels, and I'm proposing that we utilise £2.8 million from reserves to support one-off COVID recovery initiatives, and these are set out in more detail on pages 189 and 190 of the report. The other thing I need to make Scrutiny Committee members aware of, Chair, are the number of risks around the budget proposals, which are detailed in page 188 of the report. Now, I'm confident that we can manage these risks throughout the year, but members will be aware as to where we are at in terms of inflation, energy costs and pressures around the system, Chair, but I'm happy we can absorb those. So just wanted to draw members' attention to those items, Chair. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. At our pre-briefing, there were a number of members who indicated they have questions to scrutinize on this particular report. So if I got a list here.
Okay.
Can I first go to Councillor Chris James, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you for replying earlier. I understand your position completely, where you've got to look long term in the future. But I just, at the moment where we are with cost of living and people struggling across the board. So to boil down the question was, could we actually look at a cut of roughly the same amount as being proposed later on this afternoon with the Hardship Fund? Is it feasible we could make a reduction on council tax? Because I know people are really starting to hurt out there.
Right.
Thanks, Councillor James.
Chris, any further question? I think you had whether another question.
No, I'm happy who's replying the other question. That's fine.
Oh, you happy? Okay. Over to you then, Hugh, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I think, as I said in the seminar, Chair, I have statutory responsibility to look after both current and future council taxpayers. And in my opinion, I don't think that cutting the council tax this year actually would mean I comply with those responsibilities. And also, Chair, under the 2003 Local Government Act, I have a responsibility as well to give advice to the Cabinet and to all members that our financial strategies are prudent, sustainable and affordable. And in my opinion, whilst cutting council tax may be affordable, it certainly is not prudent or sustainable. So it's not something that I would be prepared to recommend to members, Chair.
Chris, would you like to come back, or you're?
No, that's okay. We'll do it tomorrow.
Okay.
I just want the confirmation there. I understand it's responsibility, but yeah, it is affordable this year.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Next on my list is Alan Llewellyn, please. Alan, over to you.
Yes, diolch yn fawr Cadeirydd. Thanks very much, Chair. And thanks to Hugh for all the work and his team for all the work that's gone behind all the reports that we have, and fully understand the responsibilities that that the finance team have, and fully respect all the recommendations they made. But obviously, as elected members, we need to consider the whole issue in the round, and there are decisions that we have to make. I will keep this item short because we have scrutinised a lot of this information in advance, and we will be discussing the overall budgets at tomorrow's full council meeting. Now, there's a lot to welcome in the budget, because obviously we're aware that this is the best settlement that we've had for years, and we're very large as a response to, I'm glad to say, the Welsh Government recognising and respecting the role of local authorities as part of the response to pandemic and the essential services that we provide. Now, the new administration of whatever colour will have to consider and revisit the priorities in the budget and in the corporate plan, which we're not actually scrutinising this afternoon. But there is one outstanding issue, I think, for the people of the county borough, and Councillor Christians has touched on it a few minutes ago. We have the third highest council tax in Wales, and for over a quarter of a century we've had one of the highest council taxes in the whole of the country. And I think that the settlement this year does give an opportunity, a unique opportunity to redress the balance. There is scope, we know from the detailed figures, both in terms of the general reserves and the current estimated underspends, to redress that balance, which will benefit the people of the county borough for the future. Now, it is mentioned in the report that the consultation proposal was to freeze the council tax at the current level, and perhaps unsurprisingly, there was a very high percentage of people who would approve that proposal, over 90%. Now, the obvious question is, was there an option in the consultation paper to reduce the council tax? Because obviously, I think people would have responded very positively to the idea of doing that, or reducing the council tax. So I think that without going further into the details of the figures, because we've already scrutinised these in great detail, and I know other members have got questions, I would like to ask the Cabinet, who are observing this meeting and will be meeting after the scrutiny meeting, to reconsider the level of council tax that's in the report going to council tomorrow, to take the opportunity of making a meaningful cut in the council tax, and to bring those proposals back to us for as elected members for consideration at tomorrow's meeting. If that doesn't take place, then obviously as members we are free to make our alternative proposals. But for this afternoon, as part of scrutiny, I would like to refer this back to Cabinet for their further consideration, and a request from us as scrutiny to look at reducing the level of council tax, the historically high level of council tax in Neath Talbot.
Okay, thank you, Alan. I can see there's an indication from Cabinet Member for Finance. Carol, would you like to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Alan. On the question, because I've got the answer, I'm coming in, but I wouldn't normally in scrutiny.
No.
It says for the council tax question, it doesn't say were they happy with the council tax proposal. They actually said, how do you feel about the proposal that there should be a 0% increase to council tax? So it was a very open question, and some people indeed did respond and say they thought it should be lowered. but about as many also said they thought it should be higher than the money put into services. Over 90% of respondents did say that they were happy with that. So just to clarify, that was what the question was, Chair. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Alan, would you like to come back in on that, or?
No, that's fine, Chair.
Okay.
All I'd repeat is obviously if there was a specific question about the potential reduce in the council tax, which you know we know is a realistic option for this year. I think the response would have been different, but there we go.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Alan. Suzanne, sorry, before I go to Suzanne, I'm sorry, I do have a list from pre-briefing.
Of course, Chair, I'll wait until after that.
Is that okay, Suzanne? Yeah.
Of course, yes.
Thank you. Next on my list is Nigel. Nigel Hunt, please.
Thank you, Saif. What I'd like to ask you is, if we take £3.1 million out of our general reserve to freeze the council tax, does that mean we forecast to have £17 million left in the general reserve? And furthermore, can you confirm, or can somebody confirm that in Appendix 2 it says that the charge for pest control is going to be reduced from £120 to £40? Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Hugh,
Yeah.
would you like to respond to Councillor Hunt?
I'm happy to respond, Chair. Obviously, at the moment, we're proposing, or we're focusing that general reserves will be around £20 million at the end of the year. So if you take 3 million out of that, it gives you an answer of 17. So Councillor Hunt is quite correct there, Chair. And also, he is correct in terms of Appendix 2. One of the proposals is to reduce pest control fees for rodents and mice from the current charge to £40 per. So thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Hugh. Nigel, do you wish to come back?
No, I'm very happy with that,
Right.
Saif. Thank you, Hugh.
Thank you, no problem. Next I have Councillor Steve Hunt, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Without repeating any of Councillor Llewellyn's comments, I certainly echo all of them. So I won't repeat any of them. But can I just also mention, and I think it's important, that the proposals are choices made by the Cabinet and this administration. Of course, officers will play a huge part in their professionalism in getting to the proposals. But I just wanted to just ask a question here on the underspend. There's an item further on in the reports later, and I'm not going to go into that now. I'll wait for that particular item, the monthly budget monitoring report. But I just wanted to have a better understanding that while you make choices with the underspend, where so much of it will go back into reserves and some of it will go for another project, as I said, I won't mention it here at this moment. There's also going to be a predicted increase in underspend going forward. So is it right that council can make decisions on any further predicted underspends in the way that we believe would serve and help our constituents in the way we would like? And obviously I'm making in relationship to the council tax reduction again. I think that would serve far more people at this moment in time when they need help than perhaps in a year's time when things have got increasingly worse. So I hope you understand where I'm coming from, but that's sort of my questions only on this particular revenue budget item. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Hugh?
I think I understood the question, Councillor Hunt. Obviously, all decisions around reserves are not decisions that I take. You know, they are recommendations that I make to the Cabinet, and the position at the end of the year will be no different and subject to Cabinet approval. Again, in terms of the council tax, I've set out my professional and statutory position on it. It will be, you know, obviously for scrutiny members to make their considerations. and for Cabinet to consider, and then for Council to consider tomorrow. So I think that's probably all I can really say in response to those questions. And obviously we can cover off the one specifically in relation to the budget monitoring when we deal with the item later on, Councillor Hunt.
Yeah. Okay,
That's
Steve.
it.
Yes, thank you for that. I'm sorry, Hugh, I didn't mean to put you on a spot in any way or form. It's just that with your professionalism and dealing with the money, I just wondered that any underspend could be used for council tax reduction, and that was sort of the point I was trying to make going forward. But thank you for that response. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Suzanne, you've been waiting. So can I call you now, Suzanne?
And no apologies needed, Chair. It's very difficult fine line on setting a budget. You're right, you are walking a tightrope between what you know and what you don't know. And if the last few years have proved anything to us, is that there are things out there that could just come along at any time and we would not have prepared for them. So I believe that a zero increase is in order because of the settlement, but that to go any further at this time, with world events being what they are, the price of fuel may be going through the roof, which would affect us. Lots of things about the cost of living will affect the council. And Hugh has given us his professional advice that he would not be prepared to advise lowering it. I understand that members do make decisions, but on this case, I think we need to continue to be prudent, and it has allowed us to survive the last 10, 11 years of austerity. We've been very careful with money, and at this point in time, we are able to spread it with residents to freeze the council tax. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't be incurring more costs, because we do not know what inflation will bring. So I just wanted to say that we should be prudent, we should help where we can, and we have. We've told residents zero council tax increase, and let's just see what the next year or two brings, and then we may be in a different position, we may be in a lot worse. So at this present time, I'm quite happy to go along with officers' advice that that's as far as we can go today or tomorrow. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, Sonia, please, next.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify with you, my understanding of this is if we approve this budget, we have a sufficiency in reserves to allow some flexibility in some very uncertain times for the next administration, and that would be the prudent way to go. That's the advice you're giving us, given the fact that we already know that the inflation figure we see in the papers is out of date and it's going up rapidly, and that we do not know the impact of the war in Ukraine on our financial systems and setups. So, would I be right in making that assumption?
Hugh?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, you would be right, Councillor Reynolds. And just to give members an idea, I suppose, of where my thinking is around some of these assumptions. Now, there are 22 Section 151 officers in Wales. We will all make our assumptions and provide advice to our various members. What I've tried to do is keep our assumptions at the sort of lower end of the spectrum, if you want, so that to avoid having to propose an increase in council tax to cover perhaps, if I'd have pitched our assumptions higher, I wouldn't be able to propose a freeze in council tax. And the only reason I'm able to do that is because of the fact that we have got healthy levels of reserves. So if any of those assumptions prove to be on the low side, as I said, we will be able to adjust and fund in year without putting the council in any sort of compromised position, and then readdress the situation moving forward, Chair. So Councillor Reynolds is absolutely correct. Yes, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Simon Knoll.
Thanks, Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Cool. I just got one question. Perhaps I should have asked it to Hugh previous to the meeting, but it's just jumped in my brain, to be honest with you. Can I just ask you if it's correct that the level of the reserves currently forecast at the end of this month is there or thereabouts, perhaps even slightly higher than the level of general reserves was in March 2020, please?
I haven't got the specific figures to hand, but from memory, general reserves have been around the £20 million mark for the last 3 years. So there or thereabouts, I'd be content to say.
Would you be kind enough, Hugh, to get back to Simon on this after the meeting?
I can certainly provide an exact
clarify the
specific response to
percentage.
Councillor Noy. Yeah, no problem, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. My question was obviously linked to COVID in the fact that pre-COVID in March 2020, we had circa £20 million worth of reserves, and now coming out of COVID and 2 years later, the level is roughly the same. That's my point. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Just to come back on that, Chair, we've been very lucky in Wales that the Welsh Government have supported us through both hardship funds for additional expenditure and loss of income. So all credit to them for that, Chair, in terms of helping local government.
Okay. Good, thank you. I don't have any further indication from members on this item. So if I could now take you to the recommendation, which is around page 196. There are 4 in total, and I will take them in its entirety. Can I please have a proposal and a seconder for this recommendation to go to Cabinet?
I move, Chair.
Seconder, please.
I second, Chair.
Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your electronic hand, I will assume that you are in favor of the recommendation. Alan, sorry, did I? You're on mute, Alan.
Sorry, yes, Chair. Just to come in at this point, obviously during the course of the discussion, several of us have made the point that we would like the Cabinet, in terms of the report that comes before us tomorrow for Council, to look again at the level of council tax for Neath for Talbot. And we think that there is scope there. I'm sure that the Cabinet will give it consideration, along with all of the points that have been raised during scrutiny. We will wait. Some of us will wait to see what Cabinet come back with tomorrow. We hope that there will be an imaginative proposal for reducing the council tax and alleviating the burden of council tax across the county borough. If that isn't the case, then obviously tomorrow we'll be looking at making alternative proposals. But for this afternoon, in terms of scrutiny and the report going to council tax, I am not going to support the proposal going because these questions are outstanding, and I personally will be abstaining this afternoon, but hoping that the Cabinet come back with an alternative proposal for tomorrow.
Okay, that's fine. Steve?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm not going to repeat what Alan just said, but for those very same reasons, I will be abstaining as well. Thank you.
Okay. Can I bring in Charlotte now, please? Charlotte, would you be kind enough to just explain how we move with this recommendation now?
Yeah, Chair, that's fine. If you prefer, would you just like to see who's for the recommendation, who's against, and who's abstaining? And
No
we'll just
problem. I'll do that then.
I'll take a note then, Chair.
Okay. Okay. Can I ask those who are for the recommendation, which I've mentioned earlier on page 196, could you please indicate by raising your electronic hand now, those who are for?
If I could just ask you to keep your hands up for 2 seconds. There we are, Chair. If you want to ask them to lower and then see who's against.
Okay, can those who, yeah, please lower your hands. Yes, okay. Now, can I ask those who are against the recommendation on page 196 to indicate by raising your electronic hand, please? Okay, there are none. Charlotte, am I correct? I can't see anybody on my screen.
Yeah, I can't see any either.
Okay, now can I ask those who wish to abstain on the recommendations on page 196? Could you please indicate by raising your electronic hand?
Okay, thanks, Chair. If I can just ask you to lower those and I just double check something.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Bear with me, sorry. So, Chair, obviously, when the figures came forward, I had 6 for and 5 abstentions, but I don't think you put your vote forward yourself.
All right, okay, no problem. I shall do that. I'm for.
Yeah, there we are. So we've got 7 for and 5 abstentions. That recommendation has gone through to Cabinet.
Okay, thank you very much for that. The next item then on the agenda is item number 7, which is the Capital Strategy and Capital Program 2022 to 2023 and to 2024 to 2025. I have one indication at pre-briefing from Councillor Nigel Hunt. Nigel, would you like to ask this question now, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm just trying to get give me 1 second,
Yeah.
please.
No problem.
Yeah, I want to ask about on table 10, on number 10, it says about there's money to be spent on Margam Castle stonework repairs. It also says there's additional highway improvement. I'd like to know what schemes that's for. And also on 13, it says something about urgent health and safety work to Margam Castle. Is that the same? Is that what they're referring to? Is that it? The Margam Castle stonework repairs, is that the urgent health and safety work? And also further down it says about prudent borrowing. I'd like to know how much that costs us, prudent borrowing, in terms of interest.
Okay, thank you, Nigel. I'm not too sure who's going to be taking those two questions, one on Margam Park and the other one on the borrowing. Hugh?
Yeah, it's me,
and
Chair.
the highway spend,
Oh,
additional
sorry, the
highway
highways, yeah. Yeah.
So in terms of the Margam Castle stonework repairs referred to in the table, that was approved as part of last year's capital programme, and it is the same as referred to in paragraph 13. There are a number of health and safety issues which, if they are not addressed in terms of some of the stonework on top of the castle, may result in health and safety issues, obviously. So those works are progressing at the moment, Chair. In terms of the question around prudential borrowing, obviously interest rates are at an all-time low at the moment. The Treasury report that is further on in the agenda will refer to a loan that we took out last year at an interest rate of 1.37%, I think it is. So that's that's in relation to the cost. I can provide Councillor Hunt with some more details on the prudential borrowing if you prefer for me to respond specifically outside the meeting. And the additional highway improvement works, again, were approved as part of this year's capital programme, and I understand a report was approved by the relevant Cabinet Board on a specific project around that.
Nigel, would you wish to come back?
Yeah, of course. So that was a single project with the additional highway improvements. Margam Castle, I understand that ties in, and also with the potential borrowing. If you could give me the annual cost to us of borrowing £6 million outside the meeting, I'd be grateful for that. Right?
No problem at all.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There are no further indication from members on this item. So if I could take you to the recommendation, which is on page 249 of the report. Can I please have a proposer and a seconder for these recommendations to go to Cabinet, please?
I move, Chair.
Second, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your electronic hand, I will assume that you are in favor of the recommendations. No, I don't see any.
I don't see any either, Chair.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. The next item is item number 8 on the Cabinet agenda, the monthly budget monitoring report for 2021 to 2022. And as at end of December 2021, there are a number of members on indicated at pre-briefing on this item. So if I could first go to Steve Hunt, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I sort of touched on it earlier, so I can mention it at this moment on the monthly budget monitoring report. The Hardship Fund that I believe Cabinet have either met or are meeting this afternoon. What I want to ask Cabinet on this and who also is that while there was over 6 million, and you decided to use 2 point whatever it is for this hardship fund. I welcome a hardship fund, of course, if it delivers to those people in the most need. But I just wanted to know if you would give due consideration when arriving at that decision to perhaps use some of the underspend to help with the reduction in council tax, which I believe would have probably helped to serve a lot more people within the county borough in a different way. So that was the question on that. It was just choices again, I think it comes down to, and that's why I asked the question about further increase in underspend, whether that could be used if Cabinet see fit going forward to lower the council tax levels in the future. So that was my question on the hardship fund. And finally, Chair, make no mistake, I believe in supporting the most vulnerable. So I am fully in favour of a hardship fund. It's just that I just wondered if Cabinet gave consideration for other uses of the underspend, because for something has gone into reserves as well. So maybe it could have been used in a more prudent way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve. You're referring to urgent items, which is where the supplementary report came out on Friday, which I can see that it links in with item 8. So that's absolutely fine. Is it Hugh or Carol? Do you wish to comment?
I'm not sure there's a response required at this point in time, Chair. I think it's the same issue
yeah,
raised
that's
earlier,
right.
which will be considered by Cabinet. If you want me to give some sort of timeline around the urgent item now, Chair, so members understand exactly what's being proposed.
Yes, please, Hugh.
Okay, so just for members to be aware, obviously the budget monitoring report at item 8 refers to a £6.5 million underspend with a proposal to Cabinet for £4.2 million to be transferred to specific reserves at the request of corporate directors. That left a residual underspend of £2.3 million. I was approached at the end of last week by Cabinet to ask whether I would consider transferring £2 million of that remaining underspend to create a hardship relief reserve, which is what the supplementary report is proposing, Chair. And then, if approved, Cabinet will be tasking me with developing a scheme to provide targeted hardship relief to residents of the county borough. Now, obviously, that's not something I can deliver on myself, so I will very quickly be convening a group of officers who are in a far better place to advise as to what that scheme should look like, Chair, and I'll be bringing it back in front of the Cabinet at the earliest opportunity. So, thank you, Chair.
Chair, can I just briefly come back before the Cabinet member so that she'll have a bit more information why I asked the question? Is that okay?
Yes, carry on, Steve.
Just very briefly, the point I raised the question to Cabinet is when, and Hugh, thank you for your answer, by the way, I do appreciate that. Is how it's going to work and when will it work and when will it have the desired effect? There isn't much detail in the proposal, while what I was suggesting would have that impact immediately. And that was the reason I asked the question. And thank you, Chair, for allowing me to come back.
Yeah, no problem. I can see the Cabinet member, Carol Clement, indicated. So, Carol, would you please?
Yeah, well, as I say, as he's asked the Cabinet directly, I thought I would
Yes.
need to reply to Councillor Hunt. What I would say is that I take a great deal of notice of the recommendations of the Section 151 officer. I talk to him all the time, and I asked a question about the reduction in council tax a very long time ago. I was advised that that is not really the right thing to do at this time. So that's basically all I can say. I mean, I am going with the recommendation of a SIPFA registered accountant who has the duty to look after not just this council, but the next administration and move forward into the future. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Cabinet member. The next on my list is Councillor Suzanne Pattison, please.
Thank you. Oh, excuse me, I do apologise. Yes, thank you very much. I've got no hesitation in voting for the recommendations in this report. It seems like Cabinet and the 151 officer have gone into immense detail, along with other senior officers, to try and find a way of making this underspend work for the people of Neath Talbot. So I'm just happy to approve that, and that's it. Thank you.
Okay, next, Nigel Hunt, please. Hello, Nigel, are you there?
Oh, yes, Saif.
Got it.
We are on, sorry, item 7, right?
Item 8, Nigel. The budget monitoring report.
Was there something on there about the coal tips?
No, that was on item 9. No, sorry, hold on. Coal tip.
No, I know. Sorry, Saif. Sorry, apologies for this. It's about support for additional learning needs. It's been a 443k underspend.
That's right.
And I'd
yeah.
like a little bit more detail on that, if possible.
That's right. So the underspend.
Yep.
Who
do you want to do that, or am I going to do it?
No, I leave it up to you, Andrew, if you're comfortable respond to that.
Thank you, Saif, Chair.
Yeah.
Quite simply, that was funding we had in our budget this year to support schools around the implementation of ALN reform, and very recently Welsh Government, in fairness to them, provided us with funding. Therefore, we didn't need to use our core funding, and the proposal then is to put that into a reserve for next year so we can use it to support schools next year, because there's no guarantee that we'll have any additional funding from Welsh Government in the form of a grant next year. So it's as simple as that.
Nigel, okay?
Yeah, I'm okay, Saif. Thank you, Andrew.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Nigel.
Thank you very much. And the next on my list is Sonia Reynolds, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very, very pleased to welcome aspects of the report, particularly money still going forward into community transport, etc., from the underspend and things like that, and carbon neutral cars. I am, in terms of the urgent item, interested in the taking forward of the Hardship Fund. However, in my mind, a Hardship Fund and working in that manner and working to invest and use our reserves to invest is much better as a way of targeting for those that actually really need the money and can make the best use of it. And I am more in favour of that than any cut that would give money to everybody in a blanket manner. Therefore, my concern around the Hardship Fund is, and I believe there's work still to be done, but will the criteria for the Hardship Fund be more flexible than just people who are on benefits? Will it move beyond that? Because of course we know there's support for people on benefits, but will there be support for those that are working, do not receive necessarily any state support, but are finding, as fuel prices go up and other things are happening within our economy, life very difficult to cope with? We're seeing a great increase at food hubs already. So, you know, I'd like to know whether those criteria will be considered as broadly as possible. Thank you.
Okay. Hugh? Or is it Carol? I think we got both Hugh and Carol wish to respond to Sonia. Can I go to Carol then, please, first?
No, go on. If you go to Hugh and then.
Yeah. Okay, then Hugh.
Thank you, Chair. The answer is, at the moment, we don't know what the criteria will be, because we've only just put forward the proposal. But I fully understand what Councillor Reynolds says, is that the support needs to be as wide as possible to those who need it most. And as I mentioned, when we develop the scheme, I will be asking people who understand the issues in a far better way than me to get involved in designing the scheme. And obviously, again, time is of the essence here, Chair. We can't spend 12 to 18 months designing a scheme, because people who need support need it sooner rather than later. So we will be coming back to the Cabinet as soon as we can with a scheme which hopefully will cover off some of the issues raised, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Hugh. Sonia, you're okay with that? Okay, Carol, please.
I think Hugh has covered it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Okay, I got Suzanne next.
Yeah,
Suzanne, you wish to come back on that?
No, it's just a question of clarification for me, please, Chair. My comments were in line with agenda item 8. I have comments to make on the urgent item, so I just wanted you to tell me when you wished me to make comments on the urgent item, because we haven't actually got to the urgent item yet.
No, we haven't. No, I know the report links in with this particular item,
Yeah.
but there will be opportunity later on where you can make comment on this.
I'll leave it till then.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. We are not far off from there. Okay. Right. The recommendations are on page 200 and. Sorry, am I?
73.
Yeah. 273. Can I please have a proposal and a second for this recommendation to go to Cabinet?
I'll move that, Chair.
I second the Chair.
Okay, thank you, members. If you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your electronic hand, I will assume that you are in favor of the recommendation. Okay, that's okay, Charlotte?
Yeah, I can't see any, Chair.
No. Okay, the next item is item number 9, which is the capital budget monitoring for 2021-2022. I have had an indication from one member wants to ask a question, so I'll go straight to the member. Nigel, please. I think this is the item where you asked about the coal mine.
Yeah, thank you, Saif. Yeah, there's a piece in there that says that we've had a grant for the coal tips, and there was a discussion around the coal tips before, which I found extremely interesting. So I'd just like to know a little bit more detail about that, about how much we have received in terms of coal tip safety. Thank you.
Coal tip safety.
Yeah, yes, Chair, thank you. So, yes, we've received additional funding from the Welsh Government of £552,000, I think it is, Chair. It's relating to 14 different projects and relates to inspections of coal tips. Again, I can send Councillor Hunt more detail as to the specifics around it outside of the meeting, but I don't have them to hand at the moment, Chair.
Right, okay. Nigel, you're okay?
Well, so I just want to know, do we think that's adequate, really? Is that an adequate grant for the amount of work that we're doing, or are we still, you know, papering over the cracks? Because it could be, you know, it could be catastrophic, really. Some of it's, you know, we see what happened in Skewing. So, yeah, do we think that's enough?
I think Nicola may want to respond to this, Chair.
Yes, I can see Nicola raise. Nicola, please.
Thank you, Chair.
Obviously, we've had that support in terms of grant funding from Welsh Government, which is more than we've had in the past. We have got quite a significant number of tips in Neath Talbot. We've got the highest number of tips than any other authority in Wales. And what we've done, as is the case with other authorities in Wales, is that we've risk rated them. So we've got obviously we've got a number of high risk call tips, medium risk call tips, and then the low risk call tips. Our priority at the moment is for undertaking more frequent investigations, inspections and so on of the high risk coal tips, and undertaking any necessary remediation to try and reduce the risks associated with those tips. I think it's fair to say that the money that we have been given is not sufficient to address all of the risks associated with our tips, but we're talking about tens of millions of pounds there. It's a similar sort of situation to other authorities in Wales. Is the amount of money you would require to de-risk all those tips is huge, and it's unlikely to be forthcoming from the government. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Nicola. Nigel, okay. You're on mute, Nigel. Oh, I think we lost Nigel.
Thanks, thank you, Nicola.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Right.
brilliant. Thank you. Right. Recommendations are on page 286. Can I please have a proposal and a second for this recommendation to go to Cabinet, please? Any proposer? Thank you. Seconder, please.
I second, Chair.
Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your electronic hand, I'll assume that you are in favor of the recommendation. Don't see any. Okay, thank you. The next item is item number 10, which is the Treasury Management Strategy, Annual Investment Strategy and Minimum Revenue Provision Policy. I'm going to go straight to questions on this one because I believe Councillor Alan Llewellyn has another meeting to attend and he has a question on it. Alan, are you there?
Yeah, yes, Chair. Yes, it's just a very quick question, Chair, and thanks for bringing me in. In terms of Treasury management, is there any clear impact from the current international situation, and will the WLGA for Wales and the LGA more generally be seeking assurances from the Wales and UK government of support, if necessary, to protect the financial position and investments of local authorities? Because obviously it has a bearing on everything we've been discussing this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, anyone? Hugh?
Yeah, I'm happy to come in first, Chair. I think the Cabinet member has got a hand up as well. So just in relation to that, Councillor Llewellyn, all our investments are currently with either UK banks or other local authorities in line with our Treasury policy. So I don't see any particular risk around those at the moment from the emergent situation. I do meet with all other Section 151 officers on a monthly basis with the Welsh Local Government Association. So we will obviously monitor the situation and see how it impacts on the council. But I leave the Cabinet member come in probably as well. Thank you, Chair.
No worries. Carol, please.
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's a good question, actually. As for Russian investments, I would say for a direct local authority, it would be minimal exposure, if any. And I understand that ministers will write to the WLGA and fund chairs imminently to get a position on that. So it is something that's already on my radar and I have made inquiries about. So a really good question, and I hope that helps.
Thank you to both.
Okay, thank you very much. Suzanne, I got your name down for this particular item.
Yeah, it was only unless there was something in my mind which hadn't been answered by Councillor Llewellyn's question, and I don't need to answer anymore. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There are no further indication on this item. The recommendation are on page 313. Can I please have a proposal and a second for this recommendation to go to Cabinet, please?
I move, Chair.
I second, Chair.
Thank you very much. Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary by raising your electronic hand, I will assume that you are all in favor of the recommendation. Don't see any indication.
No, same, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we now we're now moving on to the urgent item, which I know has been linked to the revenue budget item number 6. And I know some of you members have already asked questions related to that item, but I'm going to still going to allow you to scrutinize that item, the supplementary report that came out Friday, the Hardship Fund we discussed earlier on. So the first indication I had at the pre-briefing is Councillor Chris James, please.
That's okay, so that's been answered already.
It's been answered, is it, Chris?
Yeah.
All right, okay. Suzanne, then, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's just that if you do have an underspend, I'm very much in favour of this report, as other members have said. Why wouldn't you be in favour of a hardship fund? I think we all are aware of people in our communities who do not qualify for this or that benefit. This seems to be, although the criteria is not set yet, and I understand that from Hugh, I'm hoping that we will be able to capture people who do fall within the cracks of current benefits available to them. We have people who are working, who maybe do not even pay council tax at the moment, so a further freeze on council tax wouldn't even benefit them, and yet they are in need. So I'm perfectly happy to recommend this hardship fund, albeit that the criteria are not set out yet, but I'm hoping and presuming that we will be able to try and capture as many people who haven't got a recourse at the current time, that may be able to be helped by this fund, because we do know that lots of people are failing at the moment. Thank you, Chair, very much.
Okay. Next, can I ask Alan, please? Alan Llewellyn.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to support the proposal. I am concerned that there is so little information about what the criteria or purpose of this fund would be, given the sums involved. But I understand the principle of the intention. I don't think there's any conflict here, given the current financial position of the council, in terms of underspending reserves, between establishing a new hardship fund where it can help people individually or collectively as appropriate, and the concept that we have referred to earlier in this meeting of having an overall reduction in the council tax for this local authority, which would immediately help almost everybody in the local authority. So I would repeat the request made earlier that the Cabinet continue to consider the representations that have been made in relation to the council tax, but I don't think that conflicts with the principle of establishing a hardship fund that can further assist people in need during these very, very difficult times. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Nigel Hunt. Nigel.
Yeah, thank you, Saif. It's just the principle of an hardship fund, of course, is well-meaning, and it's really good. It's £2 million. But is there any detail or any criteria? Can we have some idea of how we think it's going to be distributed, or there must be some sort of skeleton of an idea, right? I just don't understand what we're approving. So could somebody put a bit of meat on the bone, please?
Yeah, sure. Hugh explained earlier on. So Hugh, would you like to just give us an overview again, please, the process between now and what happens after this report goes to Cabinet?
Yeah,
briefly now, Hugh.
Yeah, sorry, Chair. Yeah, so this report is actually asking for permission to put the money into a reserve, Chair. So this is setting aside the money for a hardship fund, which will then be developed and reported back to Cabinet to agree the criteria, Chair. So this is actually recommending the setting aside of the money and then with a scheme to be developed. So that it will be developed, hopefully at pace, but there is nothing specific I can report at the moment, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Hugh. Simon, please, Simon Noyle.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to agree with what Councillor Llewellyn said and be in favour of a hardship fund, but also I would be trying to link myself with a reduction in the council tax element, as Councillor Llewellyn has stated. I think Hugh answered one of my questions earlier on. I was wondering who brought this hardship fund through to go to Cabinet. I'm guessing it was the finance officer, sorry, not the finance officer, Councillor Carol Clement Williams, who may have done that as member of the Cabinet. But my question is, and just out of interest, I suppose, more than anything else, why did this hardship fund come through on Friday? Why did it not come through when we had the latest budget monitoring report several weeks ago, knowing we knew what the underspend was likely to be at that stage? Why did it come through so late, is my question, please.
Okay. Thank you, Simon. Carol, do you want to come in now?
Yeah, thank you. So he was explained that yeah, it was myself and the leader who had a meeting with Karen and Hugh around this. I was in the finance subgroup meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I raised my concerns with Rebecca, the minister there, that I am really afraid and upset that people may be coming into a position where they have to decide whether they heat their homes or eat. I don't want to criteria people out of this fund. If somebody is in dire financial needs, they could be earning plenty of money, but circumstances at the time means that they are in distress and they can't eat or heat. So it's come through late because the actual underspend was only known to us a couple of days before the meeting last week. Isn't that right? And I've been concerned about this for some time, and I wanted to help those that will need the help the most. You're talking Maslow's hierarchy of needs here. You're talking about people and their basic human rights. There's nothing sinister about this. It came through because that's when the ideas started flying around when you had a meeting. So I make no apologies for that. I do not want to criteria anyone out, but officers will work through the detail as time goes on. It's just I don't know what the criteria is going to be at either. But what I want to do is help people who really, really need that help the most at this dire time. I mean, look what's happened in the Ukraine this week. There are so many uncertainties around budget, prices, inflation. You know, people, as you say, people are struggling to pay bills, and they are struggling, and mothers are going out without meals so that they can feed their kids. And it's the 21st century, and it's appalling. Thank you.
Thank you, Cabinet Member. I don't see any other indication. Okay, so I'm going to take you to the recommendation then. Please, can I have a proposal and a seconder for this recommendation to go to Cabinet?
I'll move, Chair.
Seconder, please.
Second, Chair.
Okay, members, if you do not indicate to contrary by raising your electronic hand, I will assume that you are in favor of the recommendation. Okay, I don't see any. Charlotte?
No,
that's okay.
Chair.
No problem. Well, that brings us to end of our meeting today. There are no other items on the agenda, so I will now bring this meeting to a close. Can I thank you all for attending today's meeting? Can those that are invited to attend Cabinet straight after this meeting, can you please now join using your calendar request? And once again, thank you very much, and have a good remaining of the day. Thank you.
Talbot,